In our connection segment, we're connecting the famous saying, follow your gut, to follow your epiphany through a book by a filmmaker that had her finding out the most significant epiphany for icons such as Nobel Peace Prize winner Desmond Tutu, literary legend Maya Angelou, and music impresario Clive Davis. Please welcome the author of Epiphany, True Stories of Sudden Insight to Inspire, Encourage, and Transform, Elise Ballard. Hi, Elise.
Hi, Tanya. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Of course, I have to jump straight to the question of what was your epiphany that you had when you decided to write this book?
Well, it started as a film idea. I had done all these independent documentaries that I, had done pretty well in festivals, and I sell them online. And I'd had an epiphany in my life that I was so shocked about how it had changed my life that I started asking people this question when I would do my guerrilla filmmaking. What do you think your greatest epiphany in life has been? And people were just so interesting when they would think about it and tell me their stories that I thought, I really have something here. So I put a few of them together. Dr. Oz is one of my clients when I was producing videos for him, and put some people like that together. And I told one producer friend of mine about it, the idea. I would do it as an independent film. And he said, that's a great idea. And you could spin out the best ones and make them into a book eventually, maybe like The Secret did. And I go, oh, that's a good idea. And then that one guy, I had told no one else the idea. I had my epiphany that had sparked the whole idea behind it was an epiphany that had me leave a marriage that wasn't working. And when my divorce finally finalized, I was going to move to New York, LA, but I told a friend of mine, can you please, pray for me to get work? And he was like, yeah. And about 2 hours after I said that, I got an email with work in the email subject line from the one guy I told the idea to. He wanted to develop it into a reality show or a documentary. And I started writing the treatment for that. And then they came back to me and said, we only want the epiphanies to be Christian epiphanies. It was a Christian-based organization. And I said, I get that and I love that idea, but I'm getting everyone's epiphanies right now. And I was so tired at the time of religion and politics dividing people that I changed the title of the treatment, the television treatment, to book overview. And I started asking friends if they knew any lit agents. And one thing led to another. And I ended up getting a book deal with Random House.
That's amazing.
It was amazing.
Just like that one epiphany and how it just kind of like led to other things and all came together. I was watching your TED Talk and I love the fact that you said that the universe basically will conspire to support you. And that's exactly what happened in that story
I say that now when people ask me what my greatest epiphany in life has been, and I say this project, because everyone's greatest I've interviewed hundreds of people now, and they all have a pattern. People were listening for whatever reason. They were open to these moments for whatever reason, whether they're in a crisis or just meditating and praying. They believed in these moments because of the nature of them. And then everyone whose epiphany changed their life, they took action. And usually it's just a baby step, having no idea what the second step will be. But then that step is always revealed. And I call that fourth step of every life-changing epiphany serendipity. So that's the universe coming in, or life, or whatever you want to call it, coming in and saying, yes, this is right for you. Yes, keep going. So in this project, I realized that had always been happening all along for me. And yes, serendipity will come in. And I encourage people now to be listening, believing in these moments, taking action on them, and watching for the serendipity and being excited about it and acting on that, because it will keep going.
In addition to the names that I listed before in the intro, such as the late legendary Maya Angelou, Nobel Peace Prize winner Bishop Tutu, and other people, you've also interviewed U.S. Senator Cory Booker, some of Oprah's favorite Super Soul Sunday guests, Dr. Michael Beckwith, and Deepak Chopra, even Dr. Oz. How do you get interviews like this?
I've worked in entertainment for a while, so I produced for Dr. Oz, so that's how I knew Dr. Oz. And then friends of friends would, like Lisa Oz is a friend of mine. She introduced me to Cory Booker and Rabbi Shmuley. I went and saw them speak and asked if they would want to contribute and be interviewed. Maya Angelou, I cold called. Desmond Tutu I cold called. Desmond Tutu, I read an interview of his in Vanity Fair with Brad Pitt, actually, and he talked about a woman that she was my very first cold call that I did. So I cold called people. I met people on the street. I met them when I was traveling. I would call them up, friends of friends, like my sister's boyfriend, ex-boyfriend's wife is in it, like that. And then I reached out to some people that I admired in the world, because I found that our greatest epiphanies in life contain some of our greatest wisdom. So if I admired what someone was doing out in the world, I knew that their epiphany would probably contain some really cool, important wisdom that I could use, and it would be interesting. And it always was.
And with, I guess, interviewing such legends as those, do you have a favorite? I'm going to say all the epiphanies are equal, right? But do you have a favorite one, maybe one that has inspired you the most?
Well, not really. I know everyone says that, but I mean, people say like their projects are like their children. I mean, I wouldn't say that, because these epiphanies are these people's children, so to speak, or their stories, but I didn't get to put all the epiphanies in the book that I wanted to. So every one of these that is in the book really meant something to me and was very moving to me. And I found that different times in my life, some of them will mean more to me, or I'll use it more than other times. I would say right now, we were talking about earlier, one that's been coming to mind is my very first cold call. Actually, I talked about it earlier, Linda Beale. Her daughter was killed in the apartheid uprisings in South Africa during, all that chaos. She was a Fulbright scholar and just got caught in it and was murdered. And she and her husband, and Tutu talked about it in this article that I read, that she went there, she and her husband stood for the teenagers that had been thrown in jail that were now being tried for maybe getting amnesty. They were sorry for their mistakes, and they were having these trials of reconciliation. And they stood for these kids, and they got amnesty, and two of them went to work with them at their foundation, promoting forgiveness and reconciliation throughout the world.
Wow.
And to walk the walk of forgiveness like that is really unique, and something I think is rare today, and it's something that we really need, especially right now with how we're all so polarized, seemingly,
Right.
So that's a big one for me lately.
You also have an Epiphanies channel, I believe. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how that came to be?
Yeah, well, so I mean, it was a film idea, right? And so I was filming these, and I love how the internet, you can film them and have them live on the internet and have everyone access them all over the world. So my whole thing was to have as many of these interviews as I go through life, wherever I am, to film them and then have them live on the web. What about if we had a film actor on a set in Los Angeles to someone in a village in Africa? What are their epiphanies? What can we learn from each other? How are we the same? How are we different? And how do we celebrate that? So I always wanted it to be on the web so that people could upload their videos to me, videos that wouldn't make it into a television show, or epiphanies that don't make it into a book, that they could live there. So that's what Epiphany Channel is.
Okay, so what's next for Epiphany? I know there's already an updated version, 2016 version of the book. What's next?
So people keep talking about the reality show. I'm like pitching that again, like it keeps going in waves. So we're talking about that again. There's many iterations of that, and also different digital. Now there's so many formats for putting digital shows out now, so that's really exciting. And I'm working on an Epiphany journal so that people can start recording their epiphanies every day, even if they're tiny and small, or just doing the exercises of listening, belief, taking action, and serendipity. What serendipitous happened today? How did I listen today? That kind of thing. So I'm putting that together with quotes from everybody. And I'm putting together like the next book idea. So I want to do epiphanies again, but I'm thinking of maybe, it's kind of the year of the woman. It's kind of, a woman won The Voice. Right. We have a woman that's a presidential nominee finally. So I'm figuring out what the next sort of, iteration of interviews is.
Thank you so much, Elise, for being here.
Thank you.
When we return, a final word.